finally overcome it. As long as we keep watching our distance, wearing our masks, and washing our hands.
Learn more about vaccines at cdc.gov/coronavirus. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Divine Intervention is online at yourfortdodge.com, on Twitter at jmike1400.
That's right. You can join me on Facebook, too. My Facebook page is at AM1400, KVFT, the voice of Fort Dodge. We once again welcome to the program Joe Coleman, who again is a devout Catholic, a lawyer, and apparently a farmer. And like you've probably done everything except porn star, Joe. Or would you like would you like to make an announcement today that your resume does include that particular skill? No.
You know, we were talking right before the break about the book What If, and I know that you're always interested in bringing things to the listeners that you have. The book What If, or actually What If 2, there was a sequel to it, was published in 2001, and it's a group of eminent historians who tackle a variety of questions. And I'll just give you some of the ideas that they tackle. What if Pontius Pilate had spared Jesus, for example, from a historical point of view? What if William the Orange did not conquer England at Hastings in 1066? What would have happened if Martin Luther had been burned at the stake instead of been able to go forward? What would have happened if Napoleon had followed through with his plans to invade North America? What would have happened if Montgomery and Patton hadn't been held back? Interestingly enough, these authors believe that World War II would have ended in November of 1944 had Eisenhower not held them back. And what would have happened if Henry Wallace, that Iowan, had not been dumped by FDR in 44, with Harry S. Truman becoming the vice president? Because, as you know, Wallace was a confirmed pacifist in many respects.
He was, Henry Wallace was too frightening. John Culver, Sr., put out a great book about Henry Wallace several years ago, and I've read it at least once, and I've read passages of it since. The book was American Dreamer. It was a biography of Henry Wallace.
Yes, absolutely.
And it was a terrific book about an Iowa guy who came from a Republican family, really, who very much was in tune with the common man. We don't get political figures like that very often. But the mistake he made was to be overly sympathetic to Stalin's Soviet Union. He believed some of the propaganda coming out of the Soviet Union about the Soviet Union being the workers' paradise. And of course, it wasn't. People were starving to death in mass at Stalin's orders. So that was very much held against him. And some of the wealthier Democrats, and the wealthier Democrats is why Joe Biden is where he is today. They refused to accept Wallace. They weren't that crazy about Harry Truman either, but
no, they weren't.
But they got a pretty solid. Go right ahead.
No, you're absolutely right. A point well taken. And if your listeners are interested in going even forward with regard to John Culver, you know, he wrote a book while he was in the Senate and running for the Senate, and it was about his experiences. You know, he was Ted Kennedy's roommate at Harvard. I don't know if you knew that or not.
I did not know that. That.
He has got some of the most hysterical stories about being on Cape Cod as an Iowa farm boy and being caught up with the Kennedys and the terrible things that he had to suffer through. Like they take him out sailing and you know, he'd go out in a t-shirt and they'd all have, you know, jackets on or oilskins on, and he would start to suffer from hypothermia. Just to give an example, it was absolutely hysterical.
Well, that is interesting. That really is interesting. I don't know what the senior Mr. Culver is doing right now, former Senator Culver. Do you know what he's doing?
I hope I don't misspeak, but is he not deceased?
Did John Culver die? I'm sorry to hear that. If he did, I did not hear that. but that very well may be the truth. He'd be an older man now if he were still alive. That's for sure. So I'm the one who spoke out of turn there without knowing.
Either that or the reports of his demise
are greatly exaggerated. Well, let's hope that's the truth. But yeah, he was a one-term senator. He was kind of swept from office by the Reagan years, I guess.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm sorry to say that Mr. Culver did die the day after Christmas in 2018. He died out in Washington, D.C. And the book that he is most famous for is American Dreamer, A Life of Henry A. Wallace, which I would recommend.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly. Yeah, he went to the
go ahead.
He went to the University of Cambridge as well.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. The Henry Wallace estate in Des Moines. I don't know if you've ever been there. It's a beautiful setting. It's off Beaverdale Road as you go north, and it's actually become a Catholic parish. I don't know if you knew that or not.
No, sir, I did not.
Yeah, and the entire Wallace estate was donated by an heir to the Catholic Church, and they built a beautiful Catholic church out there. And it's a thriving parish on the northwest corner of Des Moines.
Was Henry A. Wallace a Catholic? I didn't get that.
I don't, quite honestly, I don't know if he was a Catholic or not, but I do know that, one of the leading farm publications, Wallace's Farmer, was one of his babies, if I'm not incorrect.
Oh yeah, that's absolutely correct.
So, we have so many wonderful, interesting people that have their roots here in Iowa, in the prairie, and who have gone on to do pretty spectacular things, and still have remained close to the earth. I mean, just very, very good people.
Yes, we do. I was reminded of that when I had COVID last November and December. Some people saw a segment I did with Dave Price on WHO Channel 13 television about COVID. And, people just came from everywhere, bringing me soup and food because I was incapacitated. I couldn't walk. I was in my recliner, and my friend Steve Peterson would come over and kind of look after me a little bit. But I probably should have gone to some sort of care center after I was in the hospital, but I was just too bullheaded. So I went home, and I was.
Who's surprised by that?
Nobody was surprised by that. Nobody was surprised. But I went home, and thank God the people of Fort Dodge rallied around, and I had plenty to eat and plenty of help all the time. And,
so I'm going to speak out of school here a little bit. I ran into the lady that brought you a Thanksgiving meal.
Oh, that'd be Supervisor Conrad.
Go ahead.
That's Supervisor Nikki Conrad. Yeah, I sang her praises both on the air here and in my interview with Dave Price, which is on my Facebook page, by the way, if you'd like to catch that whole interview. But I gave.
She speaks very highly of you. She enjoys the repartee that goes on between you two, so you should know that.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. But Dave Price asked me. I don't think the question got into the interview itself, but he asked me how I'd been changed or how I think differently. And I brought up Supervisor Conrad. I said, Nikki and I don't agree on a single thing. But she was the first one on the phone asking what I needed, and she brought Thanksgiving dinner, which, I don't talk to Nikki every day, never did, but she just took it. She had it in her heart to do this. And I think it says something. And I told Dave Price the other day, I said, I'm not processing this. I haven't processed the whole thing yet, how deep the change has gone into me. But this incident with Nikki Conrad has changed me in ways I can't yet express because I don't understand it myself.
Sure. It's like you and I were just talking about. There are so many good people out there It's like everything we do. We either have one or two opinions. Either we think that people are naturally good, or we think that people are naturally not good. In lieu of the word evil. Okay, and that really reflects on how we live our own life. As a general proposition, if we think people are not good, or we think people are basically evil, we have a tendency to manifest that opinion in our own lives.
Oh, yes. If you listen to enough talk radio, you'll hear that the talk radio hosts, and I put myself in this category, are terrible cynics. I mean, that's what Sean Hannity, my God, he's cynicism personified. I did see, and I'm a little disturbed about this attempt to squash speech you don't like. Cumulus Radio has a lot of the major talk radio people in the country. They're a huge conglomerate. Cumulus Radio is. They have a reputation in the business as just being a terrible company to work for, but they have like Mark Levin and several others, and they have told those conservative talk show hosts to tone it down. We don't want to hear all this pro-Trump business anymore, or anti-Democrat business. We want you to moderate your tone. Well, Levin has said no. I don't know about the rest of them, but the Cumulus Radio would do that with just make it a command with no explanation. Bothers me a little bit. I mean, the canceling of social media accounts like Parler, and yes, they do spread nonsense sometimes, but I'm very concerned about the free speech implications. Both as a Christian,
as a general proposition, as was pointed out to Josh Hawley, the senator from Missouri, when he was complaining about this very thing, and he's a lawyer.
Yes,
he should. Free speech is about action by the government. It's not about private action. Me deciding, hey, I'm not going to be a sponsor of your program anymore, Mike. That's not about free speech. That's just about political opinion, controlling political opinion.
I think that's a sly way to get around freedom of speech. That's a very sly and unethical way to get around our commitment to free speech. What it really says is that these social media companies, Facebook and Twitter, they have tremendous, tremendous power. I have often talked about Twitter electing Donald Trump. He just drove some of the media consultants, like Rick Wilson, for example, completely insane because he did not use them. He didn't care what they said. He didn't care what the White House press corps said. Obviously, he was always fighting with Jim Acosta. He got on Twitter, and he had, 1 million Twitter followers, or even more than that? I don't know. But he became president because of Twitter. I want you to think about that for a minute. Think if it's true or not, because it is.
Oh, I think if it isn't exactly true, it certainly played a great part. There's no doubt about that. And you can see the devastating effect it's had on the man in the Oval Office. I mean, since the plug got pulled on Twitter, Facebook and all assorted things out there, he's really become a recluse, has he not?
Well, he's still got his finger on the big red button, and he can't stand to be ignored. So I don't know what to hope for. This is such an unusual presidency, or I should say, this period of time is so unusual. We don't have any reference point really for this sort of thing. I don't even know what to think of as a Christian. I don't know what to think of as an American. I'm confused, Joe. Thanks for showing up today and trying to unconfuse me, because I just don't know.
We have an obligation, both as Christians and as Americans, to do good and avoid evil. And most people refuse to realize that the form of government which demands the highest degree of morality and ethics is a democracy. And boy, didn't it come screaming home to us on January the 6th, the necessity for ethics in government and ethics in the way we conduct ourselves? I mean, across the board with everyone.
I think it should. I'm still stunned that some guy with a buffalo horns hat was parading all over the Capitol, including into the Senate chamber. What was that? I don't understand these people at all.
In many respects, Mike, as I looked at that, all I could think of was that's pure Americana. We are irreverent with regard to government. We're irreverent with regard to our churches, and it's because we have been pioneers. We, for 200 years, this is a nation in many respects of mountain men, of rugged individualists. I mean, we wrap our arms around that concept that we are individualists. You know, in my judgment, I think it drives, for example, the Catholic Church nuts to have to deal with American Catholics.
Oh, it does.
Because we are steeped in our Constitution, in our right to assemble and to have free speech and free thought and absolutely no fetters on religion. And, you know, Mike, it's kind of us. We kind of saw a little bit of a mirror of us. And we know that from the election that it at least represented 72 million of us, didn't it? January 6th.
I always liked the handle that the Irish Catholics were the party of rum, Romanism, and rebellion. I should get a T-shirt made with that on it. Rum, Romanism, and rebellion. And what that meant, this was a quote from a minister, a Protestant minister, I think in the late 19th century. He was concerned, as a lot in the country were, that Catholics took orders from the Pope. And as I remember, some of my older relatives, they would have preferred to take orders from the Pope rather than the civilian government in the United States. Anyway, Joe Coleman has been our guest. Thank you for being on, Joe.
My pleasure. See you next Monday.
All right. This is AM 1400, KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge.
You don't have bad luck. The reason that bad things happen to you is because you're a dumbass.
Divine Intervention is online at yourfortdodge.com, on Twitter at JMike1400.
It's 429. The news is next.
Whether you're a pro on the job site or managing properties, clean and safe is your #1 priority. And Lowe's has the pro-grade cleaning supplies you need. We go beyond the basics, bringing you commercial cleaning from top brands like Clorox, Zep, and Rubbermaid, and in larger sizes so you can take on any cleaning job knowing you have the quantity you need. Shop Lowe'sForPros.com and have your items delivered or pick up in store. Lowe's, the new home for pros. U.S. only.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
With your KVFD News Update, I'm Rob Jones. A weekend police chase in the Des Moines metro area led to a crash that left multiple people dead and others injured. Radio Iowa's Matt Kelly has more.
Urbandale police got a call before 2 a.m. Sunday from a woman who saw someone ransacking her car. She ran outside and saw a car speed away carrying several young men. She got a license plate number and police spotted the car, which was stolen, and gave chase. Speeds exceeded 100 miles an hour. The car hit some railroad tracks in Clive and went out of control, crashing and rolling. Several occupants were ejected. 3 of them were killed. 2 were injured. Their conditions weren't released, and neither were their names. Radio Iowa, I'm Matt Kelly.
2 people were found dead at a Webster County residence after an apparent murder-suicide over the weekend. The Webster County Sheriff's Office responded Saturday afternoon around 1:45 for a welfare check to a home in Vincent. Upon arrival, deputies found 69-year-old Alan D. Will and 67-year-old Karen E. Will, both dead inside the residence. Investigators on the scene determined that Karen Will died of a gunshot wound and then Alan Will died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Webster County Sheriff Luke Fleener did confirm that it's believed that the two died in a murder-suicide. The bodies of both have been transported to the Iowa State Medical Examiner's Office for autopsy. The Webster County Sheriff's Office was assisted in the investigation by the Iowa DCI, Vincent Fire and Rescue, and the Webster County Medical Examiner's Office. It was a historic day for UNI wrestling on Sunday as 4 former high school wrestlers wrestled for the same college for just a second time in Iowa history. 4 former Fort Dodge wrestlers were in the lineup for UNI Sunday. Brody Teskey, Tristan and Cade Lara, and Drew Bennett. UNI was able to get wins over South Dakota State and North Dakota State on Sunday. Panthers down South Dakota State 28-13 and North Dakota State 27-11. Brody Teskey, who transferred from Penn State to UNI, went 2-0 on the day, as did Tristan Lara. Cade Lara and Drew